Pacific Northwest National Lab started back in 1965. It was commissioned by the Department of Energy. It came out of the Manhattan Project, and so its early histories and research dated back to our nuclear weapons production. But when we became a national lab, that mission began to expand far beyond just nuclear energy production, nuclear weapons production, etc., to broader missions around environmental science. As the U.S. electric grid began to expand, it's led into computational chemistry, biology. It was really about data processing, the speed of processing, increasing the accuracy of our predictive modeling that led us to work with AWS in that regard, and specifically on GovCloud. Over the years, from 2012 till now, we've been growing at a clip of about 25% growth per year. So that mission has continued to grow as broad as the scope that the National Lab takes on. So one of the GovCloud use cases that we have been involved in here recently is with U.S. Department of Treasury. They had multiple silos of data that were not combined. They didn't have a common taxonomy, and it was very hard to apply advanced analytics. And what Treasury was looking for is to combine these data sets in such a way that they could do that work and understand where the threats were. We engaged in that, did some of that early data testing work to help simplify that, and then have built tools such as one we call Cache that allows for that kind of analytic capability and search. We've also brought in additional data sets such as cryptocurrency logs to be able to add and augment what Treasury already had. So the end result of this is that it allows Treasury now to be more effective and apply speed to their mission in engaging these rogue actors. And we've had several others as well that GovCloud's been instrumental in. We have used it in use cases around taking large sets of environmental data and applying that towards climate modeling. And what we needed was a secure environment that allowed for that flexibility and mobility in that evolving analysis process. It's a very fast evolving space with AI, ML, even generative AI in that process. What we're seeing is these capabilities being best of breed in the cloud and giving us the opportunity to really advance domain spaces that accelerate scientific discovery. So many of these spaces involve domains that are not familiar with these technologies, and so we're having to use things like generative AI to come alongside them in that process to help them think through its application. We're applying their tool sets in an AI space so it's familiar for them, but advancing the process for them is really the goal. A lot of our sponsors really are focused on this speed to mission kind of concept, and so that data processing becomes a fundamental piece. In fact, we're dealing with very complex computing environments that are growing in complexity. So you think about just something like edge computing. The number of devices being deployed at the edge is growing, but the capabilities on these edge devices are also growing. So you have this massive data explosion that's happening at the edge. What I'm coming as a researcher is I'm thinking about my workflow, right? And that workflow runs from the edge through on-prem to the cloud. And I need to think about my data provenance throughout that continuum. That is a highly complex problem, but that's really where we need to go. So when you think about this from a national lab and our partnership with AWS, AWS has to help us with this solution. How do we think about that data provenance throughout? How do we think about effective data curation, management throughout that? They're going to be a piece of that continuum, but they may not be the entire piece. And so how do they help us through that? PNNL, when we engage with a federal sponsor in a particular scope, we understand what their requirements are, right? What are they trying to accomplish, not only in terms of the analysis, but what's the restrictions, policies that they're trying to operate within. And so in that process, we oftentimes find that GovCloud, being purpose-built, is an obvious solution for those sponsors. As a national lab, many of the federal sponsors that we support work in classified kind of operations. Their data is highly sensitive, the mission's highly sensitive, and so we will oftentimes choose GovCloud as a place to go build, do the development and test work, and then push to the high side for that kind of operational production setting.